Hey everybody, this is Pastor Chris. I'm coming to you live from Lexington Park Baptist Church. This is PC Studios. It is 2/25/26. How in the world are you doing? I hope you're blessed, highly favored by God. Good to be with you today. So we are in the book of Judges. We're going to just keep going right on into it. So we are on Judges 2, and we'll be looking at 8 through probably 15. We looked through, or excuse me, 8 through 10. We looked at 6 through 8 yesterday. We read the whole thing. But what has happened here is there's a recap that's happening in the midst of the book of Judges. And you've got Joshua's ended, the book of Joshua, the legacy of Joshua, and the beginning of Judges. And the day of Judges begins to remove Joshua from the scene, and his tribal leaders or elders have died off and new leadership emerges. So what happens is this. The author decides to do a recap for us to remind us about Joshua, because the ignoring of what Joshua has said will cause problems in the day of Judges. And so in verses 8 through 10 of chapter 2, Joshua son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, at the age of 110, he dies, 110 years old. Great life. They buried him in the territory of an inheritance in Timnath-Heres, in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gaash. The whole generation was also gathered to their ancestors, and after them another generation rose up who did not know the Lord or the works that he had done for Israel. May God add a blessing to his holy word. This is a sad story, actually. You know, whenever we are a leader, I spoke on leadership yesterday, we want to leave a legacy. We want people to follow. We want people to succeed. And unfortunately, Joshua did his best. Joshua did exactly what God had said. He had obeyed God. He left good leadership. He gave the people their inheritance. He gave each tribe their territories. And their job was simple. Drive out the inhabitants, tear down the idols, and worship Yahweh. Pretty good checklist, right? They didn't do it. So Joshua dies and things change. A whole generation is gathered in to be with their ancestors. In other words, they go on to be with the Lord. They go on to be with those that have gone before them of faith. So Joshua has moved on. And a generation is left that has to keep going in the faith. This is part of life, you all. I've spoken this Sunday. We will die. Generations will pass away and new generations will come. Responsibilities get passed on. Legacies must be continued. Faith must be endured, maintained, advanced. It becomes each generation's task. What happens with Joshua and Judges is the same thing that happens to us today in our nation. Will we be a nation ruled by laws of order? Or will we not? Will we indoctrinate our children into hating law enforcement? We're doing it. Will we be a generation that when the President of the United States stands and asks during his State of the Union speech, will everyone in this chamber stand who agrees with this statement, and he asks them, will you make it a priority basically to defend the citizens of America over illegal immigrants? And half of the chamber can't stand for that? We are American citizens. So each generation can lose freedom. And last night, we witnessed it. The Democratic Party refused to stand, but one, Fetterman from Pennsylvania, that's my best understanding, refused to stand to say that they will protect the citizenship of Americans. You're in America. Now, take that from this generational of Americans. By the way, that breaks my heart. But if America falls, America falls. But the church is a different story. The gospel of Jesus, the cross, the death, the burial, the resurrection of Jesus, these are sacred things now, not just historic things, not just a Declaration of Independence or a Constitution that has been eradicated and eroded by people of the Democratic Party. Yes, I've said that. No longer Americans, traitors, in my opinion. In my opinion. Violators of their oath of office to defend us, our citizenship, and defend the Constitution, which gives us citizenship. I can't even fathom it. Now, what I can't fathom either, as much as that is for an American, imagine Christianity. Imagine Christians that no longer follow the word. Imagine Christians that no longer lift up the cross. Imagine Christians that lift up the cross just for their own sake. Imagine Christians that deny God as creator. Imagine Christians that won't say that we're male and female. Imagine Christians that won't say if we're fearfully and wonderfully made in the womb. Imagine Christians that won't honor people all the way through their life like Joshua till age 110. Imagine Christians that don't believe in the resurrection because they can't prove it. Imagine Christians that follow evolution instead of creationism. Imagine Christians that will raise a fist to divide instead of saying all people are equal. Imagine Christians. Imagine. That is the same generational thing that they're experiencing in Joshua to Judges. And Judges is the failure of it. We need to learn from Judges so we don't do the same things. That's God's warning here. This is God's reminder, remember Joshua? And that's where we're going to go today. Joshua died, generations come. Now listen to what this generation has done in verse 10. Whole generations gathered to their ancestors. After them, another generation rises up who did not know the Lord or the works that he had done for Israel. This is important. Generations can raise up in Christianity that do not know the Lord. There's no relationship. They're taught stories. This is why those people that work for a children's ministry team or CMT at our church, it's important. It's not just stories, it's reality. It's not just stories, it's relationship. It's not just knowledge, it's about transformation. We want to know God and know what he's done. So it's not just knowledge, it's relationship. Israel lost it. They no longer had their relationship with Yahweh. They didn't know him in an intimate way at all. Their worship was void, and they just kind of failed to worship God anymore, Yahweh anymore. They didn't know what he had done. So they didn't know that he was better than Baal or Ashtaroth. They didn't know that he was better than the gods of the land or the philosophies of the influences of the inhabitants of the people of the land. They just look like the world. Doesn't that sound like America? Listen, if you're a Christian, it does. It's sad to watch. It's sad to see. But it's not just national politics, or it's the morality and the fabric of a society. And it's influenced the church. Isn't that sad? I would imagine probably Joshua had wept or would weep. I would imagine that the elders, seeing the fade, would have been questioning things. Before they knew it, they were gone, and a generation had come that did not know God or know what he had done. So what's that lead us to? It leads us to remember that we need to remember. We need to remember. So Joshua gave them a warning in Joshua 24, 14 through 15. Therefore, fear the Lord and worship him sincerity and truth. This is kind of like spirit and truth that Jesus does in John 4. Joshua is telling us, fear God. Remember who he is. Worship him alone with sincerity and truth. Sincerity, genuineness, authenticity, relationship. That's what I'm going to say it is. And truth. He is the truth. So, get rid of the gods of your ancestors who worship before the Euphrates River. And listen to what I said. I said, our Euphrates River is the Potomac River. Get rid of the gods beyond the Euphrates, the Potomac. Get rid of those gods. The gods of gender dysphoria. The gods of a rainbow flag. The gods of a fist standing up. The gods of racism. The gods of abortion. The gods of, you keep going down the list. the gods that try to eradicate God out of government, the gods of that will allow a disruption to go into a church facility and call it a legitimate First Amendment right. The gods of the land that say there is no citizenship to be protected. If I'm not nailing it on the head, I don't know how I can do it anymore. And sadly, I'm sure there are people in my church that have embedded themselves with the inhabitants of the land and that are worshiping false idols, maybe even unaware that they're doing it, like the people of Israel of this day. And that we're on the verge of a generation that could be lost, and some in the generation that are here now are confused and have drank the Kool-Aid and whatever else you want to say, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on. So, but then he goes on to say this. But if it doesn't please you to worship the Lord, choose yourself today. So listen, Joshua gives them a choice. If it doesn't please you to worship God, and you just want to worship like the gods on the other side of the Euphrates, the gods of the other side of the Potomac, go for it. But, listen to this. If you doesn't please you, then choose for yourselves today which you will worship. Who will you worship? The gods of your ancestors that worshipped on the other side of the Euphrates, because some of them fell to false worship, false gods and Baal and Ashtaroth and all this kind of stuff, and they accepted the inhabitants. Are you going to be like that, or you're going to be like me? As for me and my family, we will worship, some translations say serve, the Lord. Who will you worship? Who you will serve? Who will your allegiance be to? Who relationship? What covenant will you enter into? This is the dilemma of judges. They have rejected the God that Joshua warned them not to reject. The God that they supposedly knew, and from one generation to the next generation, before you knew it, ancestors were gone and they were with their ancestors that were in heaven. And then before you knew it, they did not know God, and they did not know what God had done. I want to warn all of us today, all of us, but especially Christian, the church. I know I've made parallelisms to Christianity in America, and call me a Christian nationalist, if you will. I believe I love my country. I want to see my country, and I want to see society have law and order. I want to see good things come. So did Joshua. I want to see that too for the people that I love. I want to see my family grow up in a land of freedom. I want to see my family grow up in a place where they can worship God without fear of people coming in and disrupting the worship service or persecuting and prosecuting them in America. I want to grow up in a land where people don't have to be confused over their gender, or we don't mutilate body parts before adulthood at a minimum, right? I don't want to grow up in a world that drinks Kool-Aid, that's rainbow colored and supports all kinds of immorality. I don't want to have a culture where people don't respect law and order or respect authority. I don't want to see a country that's been violated by so many ways of life that we no longer know who we are. I'm sorry if that offends you. I'm not sorry the offense is. I'm sorry, I pity you. We're going to learn this week coming up, that God pitied them. We're going to see that, those exact words. God pitied them because of where they found themselves and what they had done to themselves. May we be people that worship God. At least Christians, the church, listen, wake up church, right? We can't afford to lose a generation of our children and grandchildren and not allow them to know who God is. And then we can't afford to get to a place in a generation in society of church where they don't know what God has done. We don't just need to teach them what God has done. We need to teach them to live with God and for God and keep his ways. You see, a covenant is relational, and a covenant is also built upon what God has done. And so Joshua was reminding them. And in Judges chapter 2, these verses right here, 6 through 10, the author is reminding us, listen, remember what Joshua did? He's gone now. Remember now that you're a generation now after him that has chosen not to know God. and not to know his ways or keep his ways. May that never be said of us. May we carry on the legacy of faith of Jesus Christ to a next generation. It's our job. It's our job to lose. It's our job to maintain. And it's our job, listen, to advance. Which one are you going to do? I can't settle for maintenance, and I can't settle for losing. So I have no other choice in my heart but to advance the gospel of Jesus Christ and to say the same words that Joshua said in Joshua 24. As for me and my house, we will worship the Lord. Hey, God bless you. I hope this challenges you. I hope it encourages you. I hope it strengthens you. There's a lot of truth in what I just said. If you're offended, go back and really look at it. Apply it. See that it's true. And then apply it to your life. And worship the Lord your God. Not the God of the other side of the Euphrates or the Potomac. But the God who loves you, saved you, and calls you to live for him. Hey, God bless you. Remember these two realities. God loves you. So do I. I'll see you here next week on Tuesday. You take care.